Hello and welcome to the Retail Is podcast. I'm Joey Morgan and I'm joined as always by Kylie Ross Seibert. And today we have Chris Shelton, co-owner of Cure Coffeehouse with us. Thank you, Chris, for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
So let's get right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit of the background of Cure Coffeehouse, how you got started, and a little bit about that.
Well, how long is this podcast?
Well, we got about 25 to 30 minutes. So,
okay. All right. So,
keep that
in mind. It started, a little more than 10 years ago. My business partner and I, we've been friends for, I guess, about 10 years at that point. Just thinking how one day we could have a business and not have to work for the man, so to speak. And a lot of those conversations happened behind a bar. And one day we made some pastrami Reuben sandwiches at home. So we smoked the meat, put the sandwich together, and that was kind of the light bulb moment. And we thought, man, this is such a good product that we can turn it into a restaurant. So let's do that.
One sandwich.
One sandwich. Yeah,
beer and sandwiches lead to coffee. So we'll see how this goes.
So that's where it started. And, as we sort of progressed over the summer of 2010 with the idea and putting together a terrible business plan, we added coffee to the mix because we had found a location right there on the cobblestone street and realized there was, such a dense population, but no coffee shop within walking distance of that particular block.
You're talking about Ghent?
No, this was Freemason.
Freemason, that's right.
Yeah, the Norfolk location right there. At the time you had a latte cafe up on Granby Street was the closest that direction, and probably Starbucks and Fairgrounds in Ghent were the next closest, right? So both of those locations were a better part of a mile away. Anyway, we added coffee, and then we thought, well, people, stop drinking coffee, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon at the latest. So what are we going to load them up with after that? So we added alcohol to the product mix then too. And that was kind of the genesis. We found the location. We found some financing through SBA Express loan facilitated by BB&T. Shout out to that. They got us started way back when. Started doing the build out, did the build out entirely by ourselves, except for the angle of the bar. We didn't, it was a very expensive piece of wood and we didn't want to screw that cut up. So we had my business partner's carpenter uncle come in and make that cut. But everything else you see in there was, basically built with our bare hands.
That's awesome. You guys have your own tools and everything, or did you rent, or?
No, we had our own tools. And
is that a hobby of yours or something you stick to a lot?
Well, my dad was always, builder of sorts, and my business partner's father also a builder of sorts and a master electrician. And so, between our families and friends, and we had the tools and know-how, and, you just get to it. And
yeah,
frankly, that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's just get to it, get it done, figure out how to do it. If you don't know how to do it and don't know how to figure out how to do it, then do it anyway and learn by mistakes until it's done. And, so that's kind of, one step at a time, and hopefully most of those steps are in the right direction.
So how long did you say it took you between sort of that decision, getting the space, and opening?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
How long did it take you between?
I guess we signed the lease in early October of 2010. We thought we would open by, say, mid-December, and we actually opened February 26th of 2011. Nice. So was that 4 or 5 months?
And did you have day jobs at the time, or was this your full-time
We pretty much always carried day jobs throughout the 10 years that we've been open. My business partner still retains the same day job that he had, though I've had many shifts in between. So it's always, certainly wouldn't call it a side hustle. I would say a second job, really. Though, through the 10 years, there have been varying degrees of active management on our parts. And, usually there'll be a life change in either my life or my business partner's life. For example, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky for an MBA for almost 2 years. And he's started with, 0 children and now has 3. So his life has, changed in various ways too. And we kind of pick up the slack where the other one, has to move further onto the, back burner for a little while. And, that is one of the many reasons that I would recommend always starting a business with a business partner. If it's anything more than a sole proprietorship, some creative sort of thing where you're, better off on your own. But if it's a business with bricks and mortar and all this, just have a business partner, right?
Yeah. I mean, what would you say are the pros and cons to having that? I mean, obviously the pro, financial help and physical support too,
Yeah. So you want to make sure that partner has sufficiently different skill sets from your own.
Okay.
Because if you have the same skill sets, then one of you doesn't need to be there. So, in our relationship, have always been more the, accounting, financial sort of soft leadership kind of skill sets. And Mike is, definitely more the operational menu guidance, Mr. Fix-It on the refrigeration equipment and espresso equipment. I would say that he's got, a more stern focus on some ideas where, I'm more loose and am happy to include our staff in decisions. And, so we kind of play off each other. You can play good cop, bad cop kind of thing. The challenges of having a business partner are, you have to, have 2 people's input always. And before you move in a direction, you definitely want to, you can still have a difference of opinion, but you have to make the decision. You have to go in one direction or the other for most of the decision points. So the other person has to at least be okay with moving in that direction and fully embrace that decision so that you're not working against one another.
Yeah. I mean, did you ever think if you're a couple of years away when you did your MBA and, what happens if one of you just says, what, I've had enough, that to me would be a negative. If you're not both all in, I mean, you've had 10 years, what happens if your partner just went, sorry, did you discuss it at the beginning to say, look, if I want out, you have to buy me out?
Kylie has trust issues.
Evidently. That is another part, I think, of being an entrepreneur, is just willing to shrug off the inherent and obvious risk of a situation like that. I would, what I know now, if I knew that then, I would strongly recommend developing an operating agreement in which those sorts of situations are outlined before going into partnership. We were young and dumb and did not, but we had been friends for 10 or so years before that, and knew one another's ethic overall. So just didn't seem much of a concern to us that it was, I guess we realized we were kind of going into a marriage-like partnership, for better or worse, till death do you part. And so that's kind of, I wouldn't recommend that going into business. It has worked out for us, and we've been we just have worked together. There's certainly been periods, where we strongly disagreed on a direction, but again, you come to terms with, knowing that you have to make a choice one way or the other. One has to yield to the other, and then embrace that decision and plow forward.
Mm-hmm. So with your decision making, with the two of you, you've got a really good leadership team too, like your managers and in the Smithfield and Norfolk locations. How involved do you get with them in sort of in the decision making? And
yes, it's kind of ebbed and. I'm sorry. So in terms of the decision making power that we give them.
Yeah, how much autonomy do they have?
Yeah.
Managing their locations.
Mm-hmm.
How much input do they have in the decision making?
Mm-hmm.
And how is that balanced?
I don't know if it's ever quite in balance. It has been imbalanced one way or the other from time to time throughout the last 10 years. We've probably had, I'm going to say, like a good 5 or 6 number one managers through the years. And again, with my business partner and I, with our, day jobs and the commitments therefore and families and stuff, it's sort of ebbed and flowed our involvement with the management. And of course, the more we are involved, the better job that they seem to do. We've had good and bad experiences in that regard, but now we absolutely, and for the last quite a little bit now, we've had just a wonderful management team who is wholly invested in the business, the growth of the business, the customer experience, and paying attention to profitability measures, mm-hmm. And making sure our margins are where they need to be. Of course, all of that was blown way out of the water 3 months ago when it was rolled out. Mm-hmm. But they were absolutely heroes in pivoting the business such that we can still deliver, a reasonable experience that our customers expect. We never skipped a beat on closing, and I give them all the credit in the world. Meanwhile, we were managing, my business partner and I were managing the prospects of maybe not having the business in 3 months, because how are we going to sustain, a daily loss for months out? Of course, we were lucky to get the PPP loan, and that's kind of, for the time being, settled out. But we gave our managers considerable amount of decision-making authority to manage that pivot. But all along the way, throughout the last 10 years, we've always encouraged them and empowered them to make decisions on their own, preferably good decisions. But if it's a bad decision, make sure we learn from it, and use that learning to not make the mistake again, and build a stronger business going forward.
Yeah,
I think my business partner and I have learned alongside them how to manage a business, let alone a restaurant business, through the years. We didn't really have any experience, so to speak, in the business before we started it. Mm-hmm. So we've learned alongside our managers in a lot of respects over the last 10 years. I hope that answers your question. We can dig a little deeper if you want.
Yeah.
So you have the Norfolk location and the Smithfield location. When did you open the Smithfield location? When did you add that, and what went into that decision?
So we opened that one. Doors opened September 17th, I want to say, 2017.
So 7 years after, about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that, my business partner had moved. Well, we both grew up in Smithfield, went to Smithfield High School, go Packers. And he moved, and then we spent most of our time in the big city of Norfolk and Portsmouth for the next several years. Of course, the 2 that I moved out to Louisville. But he and his family moved back out to Smithfield, Carrollton to be specific. and we're itching to have a Cure closer to them. I, at the same time, recognized the population boom since we had left Smithfield, after high school. Just an absolute boom in population.
Okay.
And those, were a lot of younger families who would prefer to be entertained closer to home without having to cross the bridge. As that's the term, when go across the bridge, that's how we said it. You knew you were going out of Smithfield. But they would prefer to not cross the bridge. And so it just seemed like a good opportunity. Starbucks is not looking at Smithfield, although they had a little kiosk in the Farm Fresh at the time. And so there was no real gourmet coffee shop experiences out there. And then I insisted that if we're going to open one in Smithfield, it had better be in the downtown historic district. And so that's why we kind of landed on the location that we found. And I'll say that my business partner, he sort of shepherded most of that situation until it was time to do the build out. So I give him, credit. I love giving credit where credit is due. And to his credit, he found a great location right across the street from Smithfield Foods headquarters, a stone's throw from Wharf Hill Brewing, and right off Main Street in the historic downtown Smithfield, which gets considerable amount of tourist traffic.
Right.
So that was kind of how we made the decision to open the Smithfield location.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for anything in the future? Any other locations or any ideas?
Yeah. So we were actually had rolled out this mobile coffee cart.
Oh yeah, I keep seeing that.
Side of the business, and that was really gaining traction pre-COVID. Serious traction, and it was such a blow to just all of a sudden have to pull the plug on this thing that you put a lot of time and effort. And I built the cart by hand myself. So we were all proud of that initiative, and then had to pull the plug because, all of our clients canceled their events because obviously, they had to. So we're actually gearing that back up. Events, people are starting to hold events, probably going to be smaller events for a while. And we're talking about, corporate gatherings to weddings to, family reunions, whatever you can imagine you would want a coffee cart at.
Yeah.
So there's that initiative, and we're gearing that back up.
I'm excited about that. I'm getting married next April, so I might have to talk to you about that.
Do please. It's awesome.
We love coffee, and my fiance, that's probably the number one thing she likes.
Yeah. So we recognized that most weddings and events have, your typical Folgers or Aramark coffee in an urn that's lukewarm at best and tastes awful. And so we wanted to bring the Cure experience, not just the coffee, but the experience, the aesthetic, the pleasant staff who knows not only their coffee, but customer service, etc. So that's the value proposition we wanted to deliver with that. Aside from the mobile, we are strongly considering adding another location, which we were considering the space adjacent to Cure that used to be a yoga studio. We wanted to expand and open a bakery because we have the world's most awesome baker on our team, and we want to help her help us grow that side of the business. So we were going to expand and turn that space into a bakery. I'm not quite sure that is the best direction, because if we're going to put all that time and effort and investment into an additional facility, maybe it's better if that facility is elsewhere, so that we can expand our market. And so that's kind of the decision point that we're wrestling with now, as well as the fact that our margins have been crushed and continue to be crushed from COVID. And until we can get to profitability and sustained profitability again, what the heck is the point in opening up a new location that's going to operate at a loss?
Yeah.
And so that was, our general manager, bless her, she's one of the most wonderful people I've ever known. Put it bluntly, well, what's the milestone that we have to hit? Because they're so excited to expand with us and do this bakery and have the baker Eugene, an appropriate place to do her best work. And so Bella asked me, what is the decision point? And I said, well, when we have a month that we break even, like, let's just put it like that. So that's what we're hoping to expand, but we're kind of in a precarious position, like double down on business in an industry that has been crippled by this pandemic and will fundamentally be changed by it, even if and when, all these lockdowns are truly lifted. Mm-hmm. You guys, we were supposed to do this in your office and they closed it down again. So that is, so much uncertainty right now. And you certainly don't want to adopt another facility and rent and overhead associated with it if you are not able to operate at a reasonable profit with the existing facilities.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're excited getting the new location.
Oh yeah, especially Ghent. This is Ghent, so I'd love to have one.
This is the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur, but you've always known me to be transparent, and so I'm happy to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Keeping a healthy mental attitude is prime right now, which sometimes is harder to do than others, but we're managing through it, and we wouldn't still be here if we weren't optimistic that things will be better after COVID. Who knows? I'm not sure if they will be, but we have that optimistic attitude, and that's how we, we're pursuing our growth ideas.
Mm-hmm. I think that's like an entrepreneurship characteristic.
That is probably one. Yeah, I could describe, I don't know, a half dozen or maybe 2 dozen entrepreneurial characteristics, but optimism has to be one of them.
Oh, you'd imagine.
Well, it helps to have a pessimistic, person in your business, right? And I think that's one of the dynamics that Mike and I share is I've always been more the optimist, and I don't know. I guess it goes back and forth. It depends on what the thing is. He was far more optimistic about the Smithfield location than I was, for example. And I'm often far more optimistic about people in general than he is. So, that push and pull leads to healthy debate and healthy conflict. And I think a healthy conflict certainly results in more success than, somebody who's always in agreement with you. You don't want to surround yourself with yes people. Sometimes it works, and I guess you can be successful at that, but I haven't found it to be fulfilling to just, have the world work at your whim.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me too. Sorry, my dog just came in. He always likes to, once he hears people talking, he finds where they're talking.
He wants some attention.
No, he doesn't need attention. Dogs don't like attention, right?
No, that's fine. Dogs at all.
No. So I wanted to also ask you or talk to you a little bit about your social media. We actually had one of our members, Casey McCoy of Create Captivate Digital Marketing, did a Strive workshop on, the title was How to Be a Fan Favorite Business. And she picked a few examples out, and Cure Coffeehouse was one of the examples that she identified as a fan favorite business. And if you're ever obviously you're on your Facebook page, but for anybody who's listening, when you go on, people like you guys. You have a dedicated following.
Yeah.
That's exciting to have. How did you guys get that?
We found the right person and have kept that person in the right seat on the bus. Carrie Redmond, give her all all the credit in our social media realm. We've also found a great person out in Smithfield. We actually kind of struggled for a little bit managing the two different social media accounts and what we became to realize were two very different markets and demographics. So Smithfield is defined by the small town sort of mentality. That's one of the reasons people move out there. Norfolk, however, is defined by the urban mentality and the reason people move there. And so Smithfield, we found that they appreciate a less refined approach, I guess, to social media, graphic, things like that. Whereas Norfolk, definitely more refined. So in any case, we designated a person for Smithfield to manage the bulk of their content right now. But Carrie, has been the overarching social media guru for Cure, and she's really honed her skill at it. She's enjoys the heck out of it, and the lesson there is find the right person, put them in the right seat, and hopefully you're able to compensate them well, that they stick around for a long time. And Carrie's been with us for 7, maybe 8 years.
Wow.
So that wasn't her. So she was doing something else.
She has held every single position in the company, and we hope that we can continue to offer her challenging, we have to grow the business to keep her on, because she deserves to grow in her life and in her career, and we really, really want to support that. Again, in an industry that's struggling right now, we want to continue, making sure that Cure is the place that she wants to be.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, to continue my theme of just bouncing around to different questions, how's the outside seating going in Norfolk? I heard you guys were expanding to outside.
Yeah. So
how's that going?
Norfolk, the city of, also working under COVID and having to pivot very quickly, and the Virginia ABC, has pivoted very quickly in ways that we're just dumbfounded by. Not quite sure why it was so taboo to have a drink outside before COVID, but anyway,
when changes like this so quickly, it makes you well, why couldn't we have done it before? If you could do it like a snap of the finger and
I don't know.
Anyway,
crowd herd mindset, I guess. In any case, so we, Norfolk made the decision to kind of just open it up. You don't need to go through the official encroachment process. Just throw some seats out there, basically, and Virginia ABC said throw a rope up around it and you're good to go. So we did that, much like just about every other restaurant that had a sidewalk or area around their facility, and that has definitely helped bring people back. And we had 2 seats out there before, but now I think we were somewhere near 10 or so. Still difficult to keep the 6-foot distance between the tables and increase our capacity. We've also opened up the inside again, like many restaurants. Still, it is imperative that we and our staff as individuals take the responsibility necessary to uphold the standards and guidelines expected not only of the customers, but of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the common good of the people, regardless how any individual thinks about COVID and all these mask wearing and PPE requirements and having to wipe things down on the hour. Regardless how we as individuals feel about that, it is our responsibility as a restaurant right now to uphold those standards. It's been difficult, it's been trying and challenging, but I think, by and large, our staff has risen to the occasion. And so opening up the inside, we were very hesitant to do that, but our team cobbled together, some standards and procedures and signage and think Retail Alliance may have helped with some of that signage, or City of Norfolk. And we were able to open up the inside. However, at, maybe a quarter of the capacity that we had before.
Mm-hmm. And did you also do like the extra things like curbside or introduce delivery or anything like that?
Yeah, so we had actually invested in moving to, adopting some online ordering delivery through Grubhub capabilities prior to COVID. And of course, then, this gave way to doubling down on those initiatives. So yes, we already had infrastructure in place, but we did additionally adopt DoorDash, which was a very trying experience, might I add. DoorDash is the only delivery service in Smithfield, so we had to adopt DoorDash as well, and Grubhub in Norfolk. And curbside, we actually, my business partner had a brilliant idea to put a baby monitor at the door and the other end of it at the cash register.
I saw a picture of it.
What a cheap way to do that instead of getting some expensive security system or cameras installed. That's great.
It worked.
I hope the baby wasn't missing it at home.
Well, we knew that this would probably be a temporary situation, so investing in some infrastructure to, for $1,000 or something to support something that will hopefully be temporary just didn't seem to make sense. And I think people got a kick out of that, and it certainly beat having them call our number and they're on the phone, and that's just another point of friction between the customer and them getting what they are here for. So yeah, I think what's going to be key for our industry and our business is to reduce that friction in light of all the COVID guidelines and social changes that we've experienced. So how do we maintain safety, et cetera, and still make for a good exceptional is what we strive for, customer experience, because that's what they're a Cure for. They're not there just for a coffee. By and large, they're there because of the place and the people.
Yeah,
it's really hard to deliver on that in COVID guideline situation.
Yeah. If that is the differentiating factor, and it is, I suppose, across retail for small business, it's like that experience, it's the in-store, it's the customer service. If you can't have that, then what sets you apart? So you definitely have to try and introduce it somehow or get it back, or it's going to be tough for a little while. Are you going to keep any of the initiatives like the curbside pickup and stuff like that? Are you going to keep it?
I suppose there's a better argument for keeping it than doing away with it. I don't know. I mean, significantly more labor intensive to manage the curbside pickup, because that is removing a person from behind the bar or the kitchen, the production area, very routinely, right? And it's just, anyway, it's labor intensive to manage that. Certainly, like, we've kept a area that we keep exceptionally clean to put like call-in orders. Okay. So basically a pickup station. Yeah. Is what they've created there. I said that's our manager's idea, and I think it's a good one. So rather than having us come out and deliver it to them at the door, which we still will do, for those who are supremely concerned about, their safety, I guess. I'm sure we'll still do it at the door. We've always, bent to the customer's will, and that's, I think, good customer service in general. So yeah, if they say, can you meet me at the door? Yeah, we'll do that. I don't know if we're going to double down on curbside. I think that, sociologically, that mentality is probably going to revert back to the mean. And people are, by and large, going to be perfectly comfortable walking in a door and picking up their order, even if they're, more cautious than others might be. But I'll say it has been it has just been awesome to see people enjoying themselves inside of the facility.
Oh yeah, I bet.
It was heartbreaking pretty much, initially to come in and see no customers whatsoever. Our employees are wearing masks. The place is a wreck because it didn't have to be pretty.
Oh yeah.
Chairs and tables were pushed in a corner and stuff, and we set the facility up for expedited service in, curbside pickup capacity and stuff. And so that's what we were optimizing for. But the place, from pre-COVID looked like a wreck, and it was just, such a stark contrast. But to see customers come back in and smile and sit down and enjoy the company of others, that's really been uplifting in the last couple of weeks.
It sounds like that was your original, when you started the business, that part of it was, one of the main reasons why you opened.
Well, I think so. That's one of the, I guess we didn't really think about that initially. The reason we opened it was to make some money. But we, of the two, we actually achieved having customers enjoying it. Every dime we've ever made on it, we've rolled back into it. So hence the first part of the conversation where we kept day jobs the entire time that we've been open. So,
well, we are getting close to time. Kylie, any last question?
No, I'm sure there probably is, but nothing comes to mind right now. It's been really interesting talking to you, Chris. Thank you.
Definitely. Chris, anything you'd like to say?
Well, primarily I appreciate you guys continuing to support small business, especially Cure. Kylie, you personally shepherded a couple of media, free press situations with News Channel 3, I think, and Inside Business. We were on the front page of that, and that has, really been Retail Alliance has been so helpful in that regard, and that's a good thing because we just received our bill for our membership in the email this morning. So that'll be coming your way soon. No, I really appreciate all that you guys are doing, and this podcast has been fun to be on, fun to listen to. I hope you guys keep doing it and that your listenership continues to grow with it.
Oh, and the sound is starting to cut up just at
The
the
perfect time.
That's what I had to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for being on, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.